So we're here on the set of The Vampire Diaries with Ian Summerhalder. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. Karina, how are you?
I'm very good. So last we saw Damon. He was quite impressively turning down Catherine's advances. I was pretty impressed. I don't think I would have turned down her advances.
That was pretty difficult. Physically, I think mentally for Damon, I don't think that was an easy thing, except it gave him this one really interesting upper hand that I think was good for him. It was like a one-upper kind of thing for Damon.
She's kind of working with them now, and I mean, I'm assuming that she can't be trusted.
She's still a bitch.
But do you think that now that she's kind of on their side and a little bit, I mean, clearly she's still working for her own motivations, but now that she's kind of helping them out, do you think that there is any way that Damon could ever have feelings for Catherine again?
No.
She's just
I really
gone
don't.
too far.
I really don't think. I really don't think that that's the case. I think that, it's the sort of fool me once thing, And I think that as much ego as we all have, I think Damon, the pride factor of, listen, old habits die hard. And she is hotter than Texas asphalt.
She's a hell of a habit.
She's a hell of a habit. But having said that, that habit has since, he's gone to rehab. And that methadone worked.
He's reformed.
So he's a reformed. He's in KA. Catherine's Anonymous.
That scene that you did at the end of, I can't remember which episode it was, but that scene in the road where Damon, finally kind of gives in to his dark side, and that speech that you gave was so incredible.
Thanks. That was brutal.
Yeah, it looked kind of brutal. It looked like it was not a fun experience. What do you think it is about Damon that makes him sort of need to embrace that dark side of him?
Well, I think needing to embrace the dark side. I think that's just what he does. But I think it's more of a question of embracing the reasons, embracing the reasoning behind his dark side. I mean, there's only so much that you can hold in until it explodes. And I think that I was thinking about that. When he feeds on somebody, there is there is an emotional purging. He's eating, he's feeding, and he's getting out. It's like when we go have an amazing meal and drink a bottle of wine, and you have an argument with someone, you get something off of your chest. Damon does not have that outlet, and he's bound. He told Elena he wouldn't feed anymore, and so he doesn't have that outlet. I think it's building. The pressure is building, and there's a valve, and it just flips. And I think that was a result of that. Being in love with someone that didn't want you, and then being in love with someone that doesn't want you. Okay. Being in love with two people that don't want you. Guys, we're rolling. We're rolling.
That's okay.
But being in love with someone that two people at the same time that don't love you and look exactly alike. I think it's just building up to this place where this poor guy, he snaps.
Yeah, I know that you're a big fan of sort of calling the writers and talking to them about Damon and his motivations for things. When they brought in Andy as sort of his toy, for lack of a better word, where is that coming from? Sort of for Damon, what is it that is he just sort of playing with her, or is she just kind of a toy to have on the side?
I think Andy represents an interesting thing for Damon. First of all, she makes great breakfast. And she's really hot. But she's smart, and she's witty, and she's funny, and she's not a kid. She's an investigative journalist. grown woman.
Mhm.
And Dawn and I, who plays Andy, were having this conversation the other day. We're walking in the scene. We're walking up this set of stairs, or what have you. And we're sort of, you know, like arm in arm, we're holding hands. And we were talking about what they talk about, like the pillow talk, or them sitting next to the fire, having wine, discussing. You know, I'm sure when you get past the imminent death aspect, and werewolves and witches, and the fact that Catherine doesn't love him and neither does Elena, Damon's probably a pretty interesting guy. He's 168 years old. He's seen everything. So we came up with the fact that he and Andy probably go through walks through the park, through the Salvatore estate, arm in arm, hand in hand, drinking rosé, talking about the world. And it was kind of funny to think that then they go to dinners with each other.
It sounds a lot like you, Ian.
It's just funny because it's like a little relationship that they have.
Yeah.
And Kevin made this point where he said, you know, Damon's sort of an eligible bachelor in Mystic Falls, but he never has a girl around because the two women he wants don't want him, and that people are going to start to get suspicious eventually if he doesn't have a woman. So, in all essence, Andy is a beard.
Right.
Just a hot beard for a straight guy.
It works. It's working out for him.
It works.
It took Damon 150 some odd years to get over Catherine. Do you ever see him getting over Elena? Do you think that, like, the longer she doesn't respond, do you think he's gonna move on?
I mean, we're all forced to move on at some point. I mean, people lose their entire family. I mean, we're all forced to move on. I think people lose their entire families in horrific events, and they still find the need to go on. If that doesn't happen for Damon with Elena, I mean, I think it's going to be a slow roast. I would imagine if that doesn't work out, he probably would just take his ring off.
Give up.
You know,
That's so sad.
go to the Caribbean and walk out of his little hut and just take his ring off and just poof.
Oh.
I don't think it would be
That's true love.
It is, or just, you know, the fight of it just, I don't think it would be worth it anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't think it would be worth it.
Damon and Stefan have been on really good terms for the last few episodes. They've
Boring.
been working together. I think so too. I like when there's sort of a little bit
Damon
of
and Stefan
tension.
getting along is not a good idea.
You've said that we might see some tension there. Is Klaus's imminent arrival and sort of the building danger as we get toward the end of the season, is that going to drive a wedge between Stefan and Damon again?
I hope so. I mean, it's when Stefan and Damon, when Stefan and Damon are getting along, it's generally for the purposes of Elena's sake, obviously. Right. And with Klaus coming, it's an interesting question because I think that it lends itself. I think the question is really what that wedge is going to be.
Right.
And I think that wedge is if.
Hi, buddy.
There's literally, what is it, dragonfly?
It's like a big mayfly.
Ian is the only person I know who would have a giant bug land on him and make friends with it.
In this entire place. Look how cool that is. I gotta do an interview, buddy.
Off he
you.
goes. See you later. I love it.
It's just awesome. But I think if and when Damon decides to be a little more vocal about his feelings, then I think Stefan's he's gonna take issue with that.
Because right now Stefan's kind of just like pretending it's not there.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna be forced to confront that.
Ooh.
And you know, I don't think it's like what we need to do. You're 24. You remember? Not that it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. There was a show a long time ago called Bosom Buddies.
With Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. And we need to do like a bosom buddy episode of Stefan and Damon. Go through the whole theme song. And then they're, you know, like sitting in the Salvatore mansion in the breakfast nook, having coffee, having French toast, discussing, you know.
How was your day, brother?
Or all the really bad shit that they're going to do to each other that day. Like, you know, they're eating. Mr. Your go today, Salvatore. Not a chance in hell, Salvatore. And just have this, because that's, you know, when Damon starts to become more vocal about how he feels, it's going to inexorably drive that stake, or drive that wedge in between them.
It's fun.
It is